Meeting for Monday, November 9th, 2020. Move to adopt the agenda as presented. Second by Councillor Toohey. Are there any additions to the agenda? Nope. Seeing none on the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Move on to the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on Monday, October 26th. I move that they be adopted as presented. Second by Councillor Anderson. Are there any errors or omissions? No. Seeing and hearing none on the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. Minutes of the planning session of council held Monday, October 19th, 2020. Move that those minutes be adopted as presented. Councillor Anstett seconds. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing and hearing none on the question, all those in favor, opposed, carried. And we have two delegations this evening. The first is Ashcroft Terminal and CN Rail. Kleo, Landucci, Kinvig, and Lindsay Brumwell, who I understand is coming in via internet, Zoom.
That's right.
Thank
you. Just joined us.
All right, thank you.
Hello.
And each delegation has 10 minutes, and that will include questions and comments from council. So, first delegation, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having us here this afternoon to talk about a very important issue and to update you on some efforts that we've implemented and some of our plans going forward. It's been a little while since we've last had the opportunity to come and present, and nice to see everyone staying safe and healthy. So getting right into it, we're thrilled that Lindsay from CN was able to join us to help her share her perspective as well, CN's view, and we'll launch into it. We've just got a couple of slides, and then we'd like to please open it up for any comments or questions that any of you may have. So first of all, thanks, Joey, for moving the slides forward.
I'm just going to check. Lindsay, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just start by recapping. So we have been the Ashcroft Terminal for almost 20 years. So we've been, especially over the last 15 or so, and then more rapidly in the last 10, 8, 5, and the last 2, been steadily expanding and growing the infrastructure at Ashcroft Terminal. And with that comes some change. I think that what we've seen recently is perhaps there's some misunderstanding as far as some of the efforts and things that we're having to implement and the impact that that has. We're very sensitive to any impact that change brings to a community, especially with perhaps some misunderstanding of how the land has been used in the past. So one of the things that we did as part of this is there's a substantial expansion underway right now. We're just completing year 2 of a 3-year expansion project with funding support from Transport Canada through the NTCF, the National Trade Corridor Fund. And this project is really focused on building rail traffic opportunities to deal with the resilience that's required in the supply chain through this very important trade corridor, the most important trade corridor, I would argue, in North America and on the west coast of British Columbia. So every single train going in and out of Vancouver has to pass through Ashcroft, as you know all too well, and actually has to pass directly through Ashcroft Terminal itself. So this is a very, very important expansion for exporters and importers in this important rail gateway. One of the things that we've understood is over the last 20 years, as we've been involved in Ashcroft Terminal, is that there are folks in the community that have used the slough, what they have termed the slough, for recreational activities. And unfortunately, that has always been a problem for us, as it needs to be for everyone, because this includes needing to trespass across the CN main line, a federally regulated railway, and it's very, very dangerous. Not only trespass across Ashcroft Terminal land. This will no longer be something we can allow in any way, because the way that the property is being developed, a rail yard is now going adjacent to the CN main line, and so it will be prohibitive to gain access. So what we did is we launched an Ashcroft Terminal working group, because we are very sensitive and we respect that perhaps some of this hasn't been understood for a long time. And despite us investing tens of thousands of dollars over the last 15 years or so in signage, which has always resulted in being vandalized or stolen or put in other locations, this has been a continuing effort for a long time. So we decided that it was important that we work with the community directly, as well as yourselves and other local municipalities, to communicate exactly what's going on from the expansion plans and the growth of the business, but also to hear and understand all of the concerns. So we put together a working group over the last 6 months or so. The objective of the working group was, as you can see, to understand community concerns, to explore recreational activities in areas other than the slough, and to present recommendations for us as a business that we can help consider how we can potentially support community members having to change the way that they perhaps use some of, even though it's a private location, and trespass across the CN, how we can help the education around the importance of safety. So we formed this in May. We pulled together experts that we engaged that are experts in their fields in design and engineering and communications and community consultation. And we pulled together all of these experts and we put together a group of folks that we then ran several meetings with to help share information and look for feedback. There's a list on the next slide of the members of council. I've heard lots of criticism about a lot of things that we're up to, but I can assure you that, you know, we need representation. Our staff members are very involved members of our community. They have children who go to the school. They have families that are embedded here in the community. That's obviously something that's an important voice. We were thrilled that the Village of Ashcroft, that you were able to appoint a counselor to be involved and a second counselor to be as backup. So that was important. Thank you for being involved on the committee, as well as the Village of Cache Creek, where Tellerico was able to participate. We had 3 important members from the community to understand the concerns that they have with the changes going on. And of course, we have our past Mayor Anderson and Patty Kinvig, who was also acted as our co-chairs to help facilitate the discussion, in addition to the professionals that we had hired. The next slide is just an example of one of the letters that we put in the local paper to help communicate with everybody, all concerned community members, so that they understood what we were trying to do and that we were looking for feedback, obviously in a very respectful and open and transparent way. I would ask that, Lindsay, if you can hear us, if the next slide, next couple of slides, Lindsay has a couple of comments, one slide that Lindsay has a comment on, and then I'd like to show you a map to deal with a few more details. Lindsay, can I hand it over to you?
Lindsay, can you see?
Sure.
Perfect.
Can you see this?
Nancy,
Sorry.
can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Did you see me?
No, I haven't put you on screen, but can you see the slide? They have the slide up on the main screen.
So actually the slides haven't been moving for me, but I know what's on the slide, so I'll just speak to it.
You're on screen. One moment. I'll just get it shared again. Just a moment. Where is it?
We can hear you, Lindsay, if you wanted to start while he's moving you up there.
Sure. So I just wanted to follow up on, first of all, good evening. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but we have some pretty strict COVID protocols that do not allow any in-person meetings, especially as things continue to fluctuate. But I just want to say good evening, and I hope to meet you all in person as soon as this pandemic or a vaccine is out there. So one of the things that we presented at CN, I want to thank Kleo and PSA for putting together this working group and all the community members that were able to participate, both from the village as well as residents and a variety of different stakeholders. I recognize that I came into the situation somewhat late, but our CN police had participated in earlier sessions. So one of the things that I can specifically talk about here at CN is safety is a shared responsibility. It is something that we know we cannot do alone. And while we have a lot of well-meaning groups, we also know that there is an average of 2,300 plus crossing accidents per year and 1,000 rail accidents per year. if you talk to anyone in my public works team who manages crossings, there you will repeatedly or regularly hear them say the safest crossing is no crossing. And we say that, as you can see from this image here, I actually took it about an hour and a half ago from Operation Lifesaver. They are an organization that is third party, and they work with Transport Canada, and they track railway crossing and trespassing incidences. And you can see these are the stats for this year up to the end of September. And we really want to communicate to everyone at the Village Council that a crossing does not guarantee safety. They, as you can see from the incidences and the crossing incidences at the bottom here, just in 3 quarters, it doesn't guarantee safety. Accidents and incidences still happen. And at CN, we're working to try and make sure that there are 0 incidences at any crossings. And that also means identifying when there are more dangerous requests being placed to us, which is the reason why we explained and presented our position at the working group that rail tracks and right-of-way for CN are not trails or public lands. They are private property. And also, just so the village is aware, they are also solely under the jurisdiction of the federal government. So any requests on trespassing or crossings or any of that actually needs to go to the Transport Canada. And as I provided in the letter that was jointly signed by PSA, we provided a copy of the presentation, as well as highlighting that we went through the federal framework that oversees all crossings across the entire Canadian network. So what I really want to stress to the Village of Ashcroft is that is not that we don't understand or care or empathize about the unique circumstances of each individual community. However, we are a federally regulated railway that is obligated to Transport Canada, and we cannot be in a position of being seen of providing exemptions or breaking the law under Transport Canada with our regulator. And we would not be able to say that safety is a shared responsibility if we provided those exemptions, or if we were advocating for that exemption, because ultimately, if safety is a core value, and you can see by the numbers on the screen, accidents still happen, and our goal is to get it down to 0. So I also want to just flag in that letter, we've asked Village Council to take a look at the My Rail Safety Pledge. We've provided resources through Operational Lifesaver. They're all free. They're for everyone across Canada, for a variety of different industries, resident, public, everything. We encourage everyone to look. And also, if you're looking to track statistics on trespassing and grade crossing incidences, they have the current running totals, and they're fairly up to date. So I just wanted to add that. And then I'll turn it over to Kleo and of course any questions.
So our concern here this evening is that we understand that there is some interest from the community group that perhaps doesn't understand the implications of some of the information that's being disseminated. And we're very, very concerned, and we implore council to please take a more clear understanding and communication with the members of the community to keep them safe. Because we've noticed a website, we've noticed a lot of online chatter around making comments such that Ashcroft Terminal is the safest access to the river. We've also had comments that have said that it's the responsibility of us to give access back where we've taken it away. I just want to clarify that we've never allowed it. It's been private property for a very long time, and this has been a concern we've had for a very long time. About 4 years ago, we had an individual trespass onto the slough. It is our responsibility as a landowner to keep people safe. That individual perished from an accident that we weren't able to manage because of the size of the site, but that individual trespassed across the CN main line and did pass away, unfortunately. We cannot have a repeat of this, and we need to keep our community safe. And we are really asking the council, mayor, and members of council to support that we need to keep the members of Ashcroft Terminal safe. Unfortunately, you know, when we look at this, we do appreciate that folks have gone down there and have trespassed. We're concerned with some of the public commentary about, we don't care if it's illegal, we're going anyway. And these are very concerning comments. We do respect and appreciate the passion for it. We're really keen to work together to try to understand alternative locations that folks can enjoy. but this is a very important issue, as we can hear from CN, and I can assure you it's a concern for us. The further comments like the public road through private land is actually a private road. Evans Road does end at the beginning of Ashcroft Terminal. The road system that has been used is a private road and is being redirected, and only secured folks that have passed, you know, the security requirements that will be required. There's a lot of change going down there, and again, we respect and understand and appreciate the sensitivity for folks, but this is safety has to be our #1 concern as a community. And we need to take this shared responsibility seriously. We are very open and keen to have dialogue. It does concern us when we hear groups in public talk about, after we've gone through the working group and we have these discussions, trying to understand all sides, and then we hear that there's efforts being made to pursue legal action against us. That is obviously changes the way that we can then have a dialogue, but we are very keen and open to continuing to have this discussion and work together with the Village of Ashcroft to make sure that we can do whatever we can to work and respect and understand the changes that this brings. So we understand you have a resolution in front of you this evening, but we caution around the priority needs to be keeping our community safe. And if there's any questions or comments, I'm happy to answer anything.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Lindsay, if you can hear me.
This is a map. I'll just highlight very quickly. The yellow zone, the highlighted yellow area is Ashcroft Terminal property. The blue is the CN main line. The green is the CP main line. And there's a sort of pink color that ends at where the CN comes across. That is the end of Evans Road. It is, and Lindsay, perhaps jump in, walking underneath the CN bridge is CN right of way. And so that is also trespassing across federally regulated lands. So as you can see, as we expand, we do appreciate that up to the high water mark in the slough, and certainly we understand that folks have an interest to access that, and certainly that's their prerogative to do so in other ways, but accessing it through any of these areas is not something that is permitted. Thank you.
Anyone on council?
And you can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? I just want clarification regarding the below the high water mark. So if someone were to get in a boat, upstream or downstream, and come up or down the river, they could access it.
That's allowed across the whole country. So that is not, I mean, that's up to them. Obviously, above the high water mark in the slough is Ashcroft Terminal property. And so it's that responsibility that we would have. That is where the individual passed away. We've had a railway incident, as we all know, to the south of us recently with someone who trespassed directly on the CP main line. So these are all concerns.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? No? All right, thank you very much, Lindsay. Oh, there you are. Hello. Hi. Thanks, Lindsay. You're there. All right, hello, goodbye.
Thank you for having me. And if you guys do have any questions, or if any of the resources in the draft letter or presentation that was provided a few weeks ago is unclear, I know Daniela, your CAO is very diligent, and she does have my contact details. I will recommend calling me or emailing me, but I am available to answer any questions or concerns you guys may have.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have a second delegation, and that is Housing Needs Collaboration, Vicki Trill and Trisha Kell. Ladies.
Good evening, Mayor Roden, councilors and village staff. My name is Trisha. I'm with the Elizabeth Fry Society, and of course, you probably all know Vicki Trill with the Ashcroft Hub. At the start of the pandemic, we were fortunate enough that a number of community groups collaborated and created a COVID-19 helpline to service needs in our area. And from that, we've grown with the greater collaboration. Recently, we held a community collaboration day on October 20th to address some of the needs of the community. And of course, housing was one of the biggest needs that were addressed. So tonight we're before you to invite village staff and council to join us and collaborate with us. And I'm going to address one of those invites and Vicky's going to address the second. My first invitation to you is our hopes in developing a housing committee that would sort of collaborate together, look at land usage, what the community's needs are based on that amazing housing study that just came out. We know that this project is bigger than what one person or one agency can do. So we would love somebody from Village Council and Village staff to join us on this committee, along with some service agencies and community groups, to sort of move that report forward and see what we can do community-wise to address housing. We sort of feel like it's a bit of a barrier, not only for economic growth, but developing the potential of Ashcroft with new families and community members moving in. So my first invitation to you is to invite council staff and village staff to join us on that committee to look at housing and how we can address it collaboratively. And then I'm going to pass it over to Vicki.
Yeah, so as Trish mentioned, we had a community collaboration workshop, and neither of us had went there, I don't think, with the preconceived idea that we would talk about housing, but that's what came up just through the course of the workshop. And as all of the challenges and opportunities came up, it became clear that this was what the collaborative was really, really pushing for. And as we got into it, we realized, as Trish said too, this is a big job that, not just one person or one organization can do. And both Trish and I were thinking, well, both of us are really busy. How can we make this work? So of course, I'm the grant person, I guess. And I did a little bit of research, and I noticed that NDIT has a specific grant to hire, you can get the wages for an entire year for somebody to be a coordinator for that exact purpose. So you have a committee together, the grant funds will hire a staff person who will do the strategic goals of that group, and be able to maybe get a project shovel ready would be the idea. It is only accessible for municipalities. So an initial thought would be that if we were successful with this kind of application, that person could be contracted, and they may have an office at the hub. And if you probably looked at the financials that I sent ahead of time, the idea would be a number of in-kind contributions through the hub, and that would include space and use of administrative tools, including computer and all of that kind of stuff. And then Trish and I have our we know how to find money sort of hats on, and we have a few other irons in the fire as well, but we wanted to invite you as well to be a part of making that happen and being able to put the group together and hire the staff in order to get the work done. So that's the second invite. I don't know if you have a wrap up.
No.
We're quite excited about it. When we found the grant, because at first we thought, well, this is great. It's a need, and we kind of saw how maybe it could get done, but of course it's a lot of work. And when we found the second piece of it, we thought, if we can actually make this happen. So that's the invite to you. And we loved your report because it was everything everybody was saying at the meeting anyway. So that was quite encouraging to see that everybody's all on the same page. Any questions?
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Does council have any questions, comments? At your meeting, was there any particular type of housing that there was a consensus that we needed more than another kind, or?
No, I think it echoed the report that you guys just completed. There's definitely a need for seniors housing, some low income housing, and we kind of felt like no one person had that answer. So if we had a committee that we had seniors representation, and open that up and had a big variety, they could help sort of steer that person that's hired in the direction that this collaborative feels that it needs to go
in. Comments? And what people representing what sorts of organizations were there at the meeting?
Kind of like the round table, really. If you're familiar with it.
We had hospice, the hub, EFRI, let me think, there was a
Better at Home.
Better at Home Community Resource Society. So we did a mass email out to people, sort of that Highway 97 corridor from Spence's Bridge to Clinton, and that was sort of the consensus. Housing was kind of one of the top priorities.
Do you know in any information you've created so far whether BC Housing can be involved in this in any way?
Yeah, so once we sort of have a bit of a plan, they actually have some funding available that a consultant can then be hired. So we just have to line a few ducks in a row. Part of our hope is when somebody's hired, they join BC Housing. I just did a webinar on Small is Beautiful about housing opportunities in small communities, and it definitely can happen. We wanted to sort of push that report forward, right? But like we said, no one person or agency can take that on, but as a collaborative, we can, work together and as a community to make that happen.
Yeah, we found that in our research, there was kind of stages where you've really completed the first stage, and that's the research and development of the needs report. The second stage would be to put the committee together and say, okay, this is what we want and this is what we need to do. And then the third stage would be what Trish was just referencing. So it's a bit of a long process, but I think a step in the right direction for sure. Yeah.
I think I'm talking to you, Trish, and Judy Hampton of the Clinton District Assisted Living would be a good person to speak with because she's been down that road.
Yes.
For seniors housing, definitely, and I'm sure she has a lot of wisdom, both things that they did that went well and things that in retrospect they might have done differently, perhaps. So she's got a huge amount of experience. I'm sure she'd be more than happy to share that, her practical experience. Councillor Dewey.
Thank you, Mayor. Have you contacted the Thompson Key Manor?
Yes, we've had conversations with them and
Okay.
have invited them in because they also are some local experts at getting housing.
Right.
That they will have representation on that committee. Right?
And the Legion would be another one.
Yes,
because I
and the
know
Legion is another one.
they had done some work, and
Yes.
the Anglican Church. I
Yes,
think.
exactly.
Yeah.
Those are two that are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was at the table
Yeah.
originally.
Oh,
Yeah.
good,
Just
good.
because there were so many people talking about it, we felt like it just kind of needed a shove forward, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And this is hopefully that.
yeah. So somebody can take it on. I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
a great
yeah.
idea.
And of course, our MP Brad Viss is the Shadow Minister for Housing,
Yay.
which is,
Oh, I didn't.
yeah, so that's handy.
Yes, it is. Actually, they've advocated really well for a number of grants in this area, and as soon as you tell them what you need, they write a letter and they push it through. Yeah, it's great.
Any more questions or comments? No? Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we move on to public input, and let me just. All right, are there any questions, comments from members of the public? Questions on anything on tonight's agenda? All right, yes?
I have some comments, I don't have questions, so my name is Laura Rittens, I'm at 301 Rattlesnake Road. The first, I'm just following my notes, so sorry if I can't tell you what page number. 2.1, the minutes of the last meeting. There was a question I asked about the border subdivision, and the answer was something to do with the fact that there would have to be public input, and I look back at the May 11th, 2020 report that was put out when the borders had their subdivision by urban systems, and it says specifically that no public input will be required if that subdivision goes ahead, as long as the density and bylaw, the zoning bylaw is the same. So I just wanted to clarify that with you if you wanted to check with regards to that. Again, on the minutes, I have a little bit of an objection being identified as Area 1 resident. I don't have a problem with that part, but I do have a problem with the Ashcroft person being identified by their status and occupation rather than the fact that they were an Ashcroft resident. So if you could correct that in the future, that would be nice.
That's on the minutes for the last meeting?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
2.2 strategic planning section. I'm happy to see that you have a trail master plan as one of your 5 priorities. I think that's great. With regards to that, I would just ask that you don't shoot yourself in the foot and reconsider the section in the subdivision bylaw on sidewalks and pathways. We have 3 distinct neighborhoods in this community, and the only liaison is with the sidewalk that was created through Ministry of Highways in the 90s. I think we need as many pathways and walkways as possible. So increasing those numbers on that subdivision bylaw would be great for the community of Ashcroft to join us together. On that strategic planning session, there was another thing about the off-leash dog park. I just wanted to clarify that the off-leash committee did not cancel their request. They were frustrated with the red tape and excessive burden of responsibility put on volunteer shoulders. So just so that you know that the off-leash dog park had been in progress for over 10 years, and they just never got in it. They finally just gave up. Another thing on the strategic planning session is the quashing of the digital sign. I think you should reconsider that, thinking about that as well. There are lots of people that don't have cell phones or internet access. You can use the digital sign as a bylaw enforcement. It will help notify and give due diligence to those residents that are perhaps needing education. So you can still communicate with those people. Remember, the mass notification system is you have to have the app. And a lot of people just don't have the money to pay for that kind of service.
There's no charge for the app.
No, but to have, I'm talking about how cell phones, either expensive.
If I may, the program that we purchased has landline connection, so you can landlines are also will get a voicemail. It won't be texted. You just if somebody that doesn't have cell service or access to internet, we tested it here, and it literally gives you a recorded message. There's an alert in this area, and it goes through as a voice message.
Great. 5.1, the sign bylaw, the glossary part. I would ask the village, before passing it, to find local examples rather than examples from Kamloops. I know that maybe not all the signs are represented, but it would be nice to see small communities represented rather than the city of Kamloops. 6.3, that is about this building, the heating bill for the seniors. And I'm just wondering, it's my understanding that the cost is calculated by square footage of the space that is rented. At least that was when Michelle Allen was the CAO. And I do find that this is not equitable to the seniors. They do their best to keep the costs down by closing the doors, keeping the heat low. They don't use the building space continuously. And even without COVID-19 restrictions in place, I think there should be a different formula, just like the formula that is going to be used for the COVID recovery grant that's now being distributed and of which you're getting $659,000. I think that as small communities, you have to look at those. They're trying their best, and the cost of the heating is mostly not them. It's you guys at the administration level that are using the building. 6.4, with regards to the hot tub inspection requirement, another $10,000 to $20,000 for an inspection. That's outrageous. I'm hoping that you will consider not using Urban Systems if they're the ones that gave you that quote, and go out to bid to get the best deal possible, because $10,000 to $20,000 for just an inspection, that sounds ridiculous to me. 7.1, minor hockey. So the little guys can use, and minor hockey are allowed, but the adult hockey cannot follow protocols. And I'm just wondering if the protocols are the same, why can't they? Or if it's because of other reasons, maybe you can enforce even stricter protocols for the adults. They seem to be all on board. They want to play. Perhaps full face shields, additional change room protocols, no audience, no contact hockey. You could say all those things so that it could be safe for them as well. We have limited resources for recreation in this town, and I think we have to give them a chance to prove that they can do the sport safely. We have to learn to live with this virus and other viruses that come along rather than running away from it and hiding from it. 7.2, it's wonderful that the government is being so generous, and I'm just wondering if the required accountability will have its own account and be separated. I don't need an answer to that, but I hope that that's the case.
Yes, that is the case.
That is the case, thank you. And the last one, 7.3, CN rail safety statistics. I just want to let you know that I have looked over the reports for Road Safety BC and Transport and Safety Board of Canada statistical summary railway occurrences. At NBC, there were 208, and I'll just take the fatalities because you can't look at every single injury as serious or small injury when you look at highway deaths and highway accidents. In 2016, for the statistics I had for both of those years, for both the train and for the highway, 288 fatalities in BC due to motor vehicles. In BC, there was 1 pedestrian fatality at a railway crossing and 14 trespass fatalities not involving a crossway. So look at the statistics and think, crossing over a railroad, we get so afraid. It's not so dangerous. It's only 1.5 meters to get to the other side. A highway in BC, even the highways, even the local streets are a lot more dangerous. Main track collisions and derailments are the most serious categories of rail accidents in terms of potential risk to the public and financial loss. And I want council to think about something. I think you better be concerned about what's being handled and what's being stored at the Ashcroft Terminal, the inland port. The handling and storage of dangerous goods at the inland port are probably going to give you a much more serious and hazardous situation than a train derailment or a wandering pedestrian or somebody crossing over down to the slough, for instance. You should be thinking about and asking the inland port if they have emergency response team like Calais and Valley Gas on site all the time, or if the local firefighters have received extra training on the response for a dangerous goods explosion. I live 250 meters away from the inland port, and I do hope that the response will be very, very quick if anything turns out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on, bylaws. We move to 5.1, bylaw number 840, Village of Ashcroft signage bylaw reconsideration and final adoption. What is council's pleasure on this item? I will move that council reconsider and approve final adoption of Village of Ashcroft signage bylaw number 84/2020 as presented.
I will second.
Second by Councillor Toohey. Thank you very much. Is there any input, comments, questions? No? Nothing? All right. In that case, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We move on to requests for decision. The first one, item 6.1. Get past the miles of sign by law. Here we are. And we have 3 separate motions to make on this item. So I would like to move for the first one regarding a grant in aid. Council approved the grant in aid request for $500 with the provision that the society provide a detailed budget itemizing what the funds will be expensed to. Do I have a seconder for that motion? No seconder? The motion fails. The next motion is about the stewardship of funds. I will move that council deny the society's request that the Village of Ashcroft steward any grant funding received and direct the society to the Kamloops United Way. Do I have a seconder on that? Councillor Anderson, thank you very much. Any comments on this? We have previously referred organizations in the community to the United Way that do offer the facility to apply for and administer grant funding for organizations that are unable to do that themselves. Any comments? Questions, input? Nope, seeing none on the question. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. And finally, I will move that the letter of support in principle request made by this Ashcroft Slough Society be denied. Councillor Anstett seconds that. Thank you very much. Any comments? Councillor Anderson.
I will say that just at this time right now, I just feel that the Village of Ashcroft cannot support any of these requests. It is a dangerous area, and at this point, it poses a lot of risk to the community in general. And until we have a clear understanding of what the Ashcroft Slough Society is, I understand that they want access, but a clearer picture of what a plan is, I would not want to consider it.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
I'd just like to memo Councillor Anderson's comments there. Just in light of safety and whatnot, I think it's best that we go with this route, because if we don't go with this route, we're just letting our community know that it's okay to break the law. And at the end of the day, we're supposed to be here to protect people of our community and that. And my job has always been to do that, so I've got to stick with my guns on it. Absolutely.
Thank you. Councillor Davenport, Councillor Chu, do you have anything? Councillor Chu?
Yes, I think that it's quite clear that it's a federal issue, and we are just a tiny little village. And I don't think we want to take that responsibility or take on the federal government or the railroad. And I mean, that's the biggest block is the railroad.
As a person of Ashcroft, I do see both sides. As council and the responsibility that I was voted in, the liability and the breaking of the law is not something that I as a councillor can support. It's unfortunate, this whole situation, but as you're saying, it's not a viable situation. So it's pretty clear that the responsibility of council and mayor and the village is to protect liabilities, and that we can't go forward with it, unfortunately.
Thank you. I know that lots of people have very happy memories of the slough. I was happy to advance the idea for $500 in seed money, provided that we did get clarification on what it would be spent on, and more importantly to me, that it would not be spent on legal fees, because I realize the importance of the slough to many people and the recreational opportunities, and the fact that the people on the Ashcroft Slough Society are working for the benefit of the community and working to preserve a very beautiful portion of our river. So I think that there is still room for a slough society, and I think that their aims of increasing awareness of the area are certainly laudable, and council decided to go in another direction on that one, but we are discussing the letter of support right now. Any further comments on that? Seeing none on the question, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Move on to item 6.2, Intercommunity Bylaw Enforcement Officer Working Group Report and the minutes of the October 27th meeting. What is council's pleasure on this item? Councillor Anderson.
I'd like to make a motion for the staff recommendation that council endorses the Village of Ashcroft to enter a 5-year intercommunity bylaw enforcement shared service agreement, and commit to budget up to $50,000 for bylaw enforcement for year to 2021 and $30,000 for each subsequent year to the end of the 5-year term.
Thank you very much. Councillor Anstett seconds that. Is there any discussion on this item? And I will note that the $50,000 is the high end of our portion of that funding. And also according to the documentation that came up from the government last week about the COVID-19 funding that we received last Tuesday or received notice of, bylaw enforcement is one of the eligible expenses for that funding. Any more comments? Questions? Nope, seeing none. All those in favor then? Opposed? Carried. Item 6.3, request from the Ashcroft Cache Creek seniors to waive the hydro fees. Councillor Anstett, your hand.
I would like to move forward with the recommendation that council waive hydro fees for the senior center from March onwards until the seniors are able to meet again in our in the building.
Councillor Anderson, thank you. And just for clarification, that is March 2020, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? I have spoken a couple of times to the seniors and they still have no idea when they will be able to meet again. And if they do so, whether it will be even in that space, they simply don't know.
Yeah.
All right, any discussion on the question? All those in favor? Those carried. For information, we have the hot tub update from the Department of Public Works. Are there any questions on that to Director Benoit? No. And the museum report for 2020. Any comments on that? Councillor Tui.
Thank you, Mayor Roden. Just that I think that the staff at the museum this year went above and beyond with their videos that they did and just keeping themselves busy, making work. And yeah, I was so impressed with all those videos, and I hope everybody watches them and looks it up. Yeah, because they were great. Yeah.
And I think the start of the work on the cataloging that they've done with CFO Bala is going to be an invaluable resource for everyone, not just the curator and any staff there, but anyone looking for something. You know, my great aunt donated something in 1967. Do you know where it is?
Yeah.
And at a click of a button, they'll be able to tell you all the information and pinpoint its exact location. Yeah. It's going to be fantastic. So thank you very much for that. CFO Bala?
I just want to say it's not easy to make those videos. I've tried a few and I'm not a good, I'll never be a YouTuber. So it's the work museum staff they did to just create those videos and multiple takes and get it going. And thank you for all your help, the ones who showed up on the videos, commented, so thank you.
All right. So we move on to correspondence. Item 7.1, we have a letter here from Ashcroft Ladies Hockey. Councillor Tui.
Thank you, Mayor Roden. I move that we receive and file.
Thank you. Do I have a second here? Councillor Davenport, I saw your hand first. And is there any discussion on this? Councillor Hanson.
I'd just like to, if maybe we could go over again what exactly is stopping us from allowing the ladies hockey and the men's beer league hockey in that again.
Okay.
Just wanted a clarification.
CAOJ.
Yes, so our changing rooms, multiple issues. The first one being our changing rooms are too small to accommodate. We are the teams to be in there. We don't have the staffing capacity because we are short staffed. We've got another, we have 2 employees that are not at work at the moment. And we don't have the staffing to run it and have enough staff on time to make sure that all COVID protocols under work safety are covered. We felt that there were enough coaches and team managers on the ice for the little ones to be able to offer recreation opportunities for our children. Adults, it's challenging at best, and although it was stated that adults could probably would entertain to play the game well and follow the rules, we're hesitant to put our one staff member in a position where they have to intervene and enforce that adult players are following the rules or are physically distancing. We were reducing risk to the employee and the facility was the reasoning behind it.
So with Beer Belly and with Beer Belly and ladies hockey, I understand like the biggest challenge we have is our dressing room size, and absolutely, and it's very, very, it is what it is, right? But like, there's a lot of other communities that are our size and that are still allowing these opportunities for their residents and that, and they're doing things like there's no change rooms, so players come to the game dressed. They come in the one door, and then when they leave, they leave out the other door with their gear on.
Which is how the kids are coming in, and
Exactly.
in the same way. When we discussed it as staff, we felt that what we proposed, and we proposed to council that to open hockey for the kids was what we proposed, and it's what was passed. We just felt it was easier, or not easier, but it would definitely expose us to less risk for our staff to maintain the facility and to ensure public safety if we just had kids hockey this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to suggest, because as we know, this isn't going away quickly, that next year we could still have limits on things like this. And I'd like to make sure that we look at it again next year and see, because I mean, we're learning as we go, and that's part of it. So, yeah.
If I may, Worship, also, minor hockey were the only ones that approached us about ice time. Nobody, we didn't hear from ladies hockey, we didn't hear from men's hockey. Am I correct?
Pretty much correct. Yeah.
Until after.
Yeah, until we really started to get going, and there was quite a few, if I may, that several things were looked at. And yeah, the biggest thing was our dressing rooms and being able to, like, we can probably fit 3 in our dressing room. Yeah, that is it. That's that. And then there is the room going back through being able to walk back and forth and everything else and keeping people socially distanced. So our arena, especially at the back end, isn't very large and everything else. And then if we get into the issue that, yes, okay, adults can come dressed, we feel that's not really going to happen. When you see an adult and that wanting to come in their hockey uniform and try and finish putting on, because they have to physically drive there now, they're going to congregate in one area. So social distancing isn't going to happen. So we felt it was best for our staff and everything else that we keep to the regulation and keep the young kids going and going from there and see how this goes and how it works out for this year. And you're absolutely right. Maybe it might be around for next year, and more we can look at it to what we can do just differently. And we're still adjusting even the minor hockey slightly as we speak here now. We're still learning from them how to adjust, how to make it more accommodating, and being able to do it that way too. I feel for the adults, yes. Do they need recreation? Do other people? Yes. But facility, and if we did, we would have to put a secondary staff. We have one staff member in that the arena right now. His schedule is strictly maxed out for doing the minor hockey. By the time he opens up minor hockey, by the time he cleans and has it ready for the next day, his 8-hour shift is done. So to provide any more recreation in there, we have to put another shift on.
And Thompson Care, the minor hockey is governed by Omaha, correct? So they get rules coming down from Hockey Canada, whereas Beer Belly ladies hockey have no governing body handing down rules, correct?
They do that.
Do they?
Care. They do have recreational.
Or any further discussion on this point? We have a motion on the floor to receive and file. No?
Did you have a second?
Yes, I do have a second.
Okay.
I know, Professor Davenport pointed at you, so that.
No, I was lifting my.
Okay. All right, no, we're good.
We're good.
All right, no further discussion then. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried? Are you
Yeah, I'm opposed.
opposed? Did you want your vote recorded?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. And then we have a number of items for information. Was there anything in here that anyone wanted to comment on or break out? No? Councillor Anston?
So we move down this. I just want to thank Ashcroft Terminal and CN Rail for their presentation on rail safety tonight. Rail safety is something that needs to be looked at in this community very strongly. We have main lines all the way around us, and I am very pro rail safety in regards to that aspect. So thank you, Ashcroft Terminal and CN for their presentation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Anderson?
And I'd like to echo Councillor Ansted's comments there too. Thank you very much. Ashcroft Terminal is very much an asset to this community. And I think that it would be well to keep that in mind as well. And they are doing everything they can. From everything I can see, they're doing everything they can to work with the community. This issue is a very serious issue, and there's really no resolution, no solution to it, because it is a risk. It's a high risk. It's a huge industrial site, and there is illegal, anybody crossing the CN rail tracks, it's illegal, and that's to me the end of story. You just can't force your way. There's got to be another way. If they want to access the sluice to the water line, there's got to be another way. And I understand that's what the Slough Society is trying to do, but we have to appreciate the terminal for the business they're bringing to our area and support them.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Tuning.
Just in that regard, yes, we want to do what's best for our community. And I think if council can work with the terminal a little bit more and let them know the ways that maybe they could help, because we do want to do what's best for our community, and that's why it's important to have that trail master plan. And I'm hoping that the energies that are being put into some of these things can be put into something positive like that, because we want it to be positive. We don't want people thinking that we're against it. I mean, heck, I've been there too. My family's been there, all that sort of thing. But you know, we have to move on, and we want to do something positive for the community by coming up maybe with a master trail plan and going forward with that. So, you know, those are things that we can do to be positive.
Thank you. Well, one of the things about a trail master plan, in addition to helping us plan where trails will go, is I'm hoping, and I know it will be difficult because we have 3 discrete neighborhoods in Ashcroft. It would be difficult, but not impossible, I hope, to establish a trailhead, which links the various sets of trails. So you do not have isolated trails all over the community, that they have some sort of place that is a hub with the spokes radiating out from it. Because in addition to providing opportunities for people to exercise and be outdoors, it's a way to connect the community, quite literally connect the community. And I just wanted to also note about the Campbell Hill landfill, pages 75 and 76 of the agenda, regarding the Eco Depot. The plans are with the TNRD for that to go ahead in 2021. They do have the site. The land has been acquired by the TNRD, so that is no longer a drawback. And the hope is best case. And I'm telling people that by fall of next year, we should have an Eco Depot up and running on Campbell Hill Road east.
Good news. Yeah. And good news that they're open. Right.
A long time. All right, pages 78, 79, we have the task manager. Move to receive and file. Second, Councillor Davenport. Any comments on any of the items here? No? On the question then, all those in favor, opposed, carried. We have no new business, no reports, recommendations from committees. Council report, any questions on my council report? A short one this time. Okay. No? No. Okay. Move that we take this meeting in camera under section 90 of the community charter.